Hello, welcome to another quick start demonstration session. What we want to do is go over how to access our databases in SPSS, and not just to access them, but to actually review them in SPSS. And so we're going to use our statistical software package to open and review the databases that are available to us in our SOS 232 folder. And if you don't mind, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and write down these two command functions, because they'll be essential as you move forward in SOS 232 and working with the databases that we have available. First off, what you'll want to do is write down the command edit options variable name alphabetical. And please put in your notes that before the start of each data analysis session, right, after you open up the data in SPSS, what I'm going to ask you to do is go to Edit, all right, on your main menu, Options, and tell SPSS to bring in the data by the variable name and alphabetically. Okay, that's going to make finding your variables a whole lot easier. All right. The next command function that we're going to be going over is the utilities variables function. Just in your notes, okay, please put down that this is an abbreviated code book to help you review the variables and survey questions that are available. But it doesn't replace the actual code books. Alright, we have another instructional video that we will be going over just to show you how to use the code books. Okay, and so with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, just make note of those commands. Okay, and so what I want to do, if you are at home, you're going to be accessing SPSS remotely using Internet Explorer. Okay. However, since I'm here on campus, I and some of you will be working on the computers on campus. I'm going to access SPSS through my Programs folder. Okay, IBM SPSS version, I'm going to be using version 21. Okay, just like you guys are. And notice here it takes less time to upload when you're hardwired to the university network. But no worries for those of you who are working at home. You know you have maybe a 1 minute wait for it to actually upload into the cloud environment. Okay? Let's go ahead and get started. Now, when you see this dialog box, what I would ask you to do is just go ahead and click out of it, so you're at a blank spreadsheet display. And then before you go ahead and get started, let's go ahead and go and get our data, File, Open, Data, and we want to go up to the go to the L drive in terms of our path. College of Arts and Science folder, CAS, most of you know, have that written down somewhere in your notebook. And then we want to go to SOS Lab. And then we want to go to SOS 232 survey data. And then we want to go to datasets, mixed spirit. And then here are the 4 databases that are available. The GSS 08, which stands for the General Social Survey, which is a database of public opinion that's been asked each year since 1972. And for this class, we have a subset of the GSS, the 2008. Okay? And it is broken down into subsets A and B. Subset A has been parsed into mostly questions related to issues around the family and religion, in terms of issues with regard to favor or oppose spanking for children, to discipline a child, issues with regard to satisfied with your financial situation, issues with regard to the strength of your faith, feelings about the Bible, and so on. The second subset deals mostly with political issues, opinions on gun control, feelings about the death penalty, and so on. A whole lot of survey questions. The HINTS data stands for the Health Information Network Trends Survey, and we've got a subset of the 2007 data. And the the HINTS data essentially is a survey with regard to people's feelings about healthcare here in the United States, whether they trust their doctor, whether or not they feel that on their last visit they received good treatment and information from their doctor. There's other questions on whether or not they seek out health information through the internet or talking with friends, and other questions with regard to whether or not they're insured, and so on. The next database that's available, okay, and I want you to review all of them, is the Monitoring the Futures data. And that is a database of young people's views, and it deals mostly with high school students, and also those students, those young people under the age of 21 who aren't in high school. Their views with regard to, well, I would say that it's a survey database that deals mostly with risky behaviors. It asks young people whether or not they smoke, drink, use drugs, and whether or not or how often they use drugs or alcohol or smoke. There are other good questions in the MTF database too, so you don't only have to focus on those risky behaviors, negative behaviors. Teens also do good things. And there are some questions, I think, that get at volunteering in their community and so on. But that's for you to review. Okay, and so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and just bring in the GSS 2008 subset A. Okay, and here it is. Okay, and it looks like any spreadsheet that you've probably worked on in before. On top of the spreadsheet is the variable name or mnemonic. Another term for the variable name is the mnemonic, and those terms I'll use interchangeably. But that's at some level just an abbreviated term that sits on top of the variable field that lets the person who's reviewing the database know, oh, what's contained in that variable field. And Abony. And if I highlight this, it has the question, the data that's been collected has to do with people's views on abortion and if a woman wants it for any reason. And again, you really need the actual Word code book to make sense of just the full survey question, which we'll get into. This question on attend is probably easier to interpret, how often the respondent attends religious services. Okay, so that's a question on church attendance. This next question on the Bible, feelings about the Bible. Question on class, your class identification, education year of highest year of formal schooling, and so on. And the questions go back all the way to the end with regard to a question here on spanking, right? Favor spanking to discipline a child, and so on. Okay, I want you to review the database, and what we have here, a whole series of variable fields or sets of survey questions that have been asked, and in terms of the number of cases, we have survey data collected on 1,500 cases here. And another term for the cases are the records. We've collected information. We have 1,500 records. That means we have 1,500 cases. That means 1,500 people were surveyed in 2008 by the GSS. Okay? Or that's represented here in this subset. And then before you get started, okay, we want to always, before we get started, in terms of any analysis that we do, we want to go to Edit, Options, and I already set this, but rather than display labels, make sure that the data is going to be displayed by names and alphabetically. Okay? And then hit OK. And that just tells SPSS that when in all of the following keystrokes, all right, where it lists the variables, it will list the variables by the variable name or mnemonic and alphabetically, so you'll be able to find your variables relatively quickly. Now, in order to make sense of the data in SPSS, kind of one of those crucial tools you'll be needing or you'll be using to review the data is the utilities variables function. Okay, and notice now the variables are all listed alphabetically and by their mnemonic. And say, for example, that question on abortion. Abortion, if a woman wants it for any reason, and people could respond either yes or no. Okay, and those who said yes were coded as 1. Those who said no were coded as 2. With regard to the question on spanking, right, where we're right here, the question has to do with favor spanking to discipline a child, and people could either strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree with that statement. And those who strongly disagree were coded as 4. Those who disagreed were coded as 3. Those who agreed coded as 2. And strongly agreed coded as 1. And so we see, for example, this first person, they strongly disagreed with spanking as a form of discipline for children. The second person also strongly disagreed. The third person, 0, well, we don't have any information on that person. But the fourth person said 2, they agree with that statement. Okay? And then here's the question on gender. Okay? And if we used our utilities variable function, we could see that men were coded as 1 and females were coded as 2. And those first 4 people in the database were men, and the second group were females. Okay? And then we know also from the textbook that this variable, gender, is referred to as a nominal variable because people could opt for one category or the other, but there's no rank order to those categories. Somebody is simply male or female. Okay? As opposed to the question, and let's just go ahead and look at this question, religion. People could respond whether or not they're Protestant, Catholic, Jew, or none. And again, that variable is also nominal insofar as people are just responding to their religious affiliation. Okay, there's no rank order attached to that. And so that's also a nominal variable. And we see that the first person in the survey was Catholic. The second person was Protestant. The second Protestant. Next one was Catholic. And then somebody reported no affiliation. And then the one here is that we just don't have any information. It's Protestant. And then no affiliation. Okay? And then in terms of going back here to the question on spanking, notice that this category, question was measured in terms of strongly agree to strongly disagree. And so people were asked to, at some level, mark the intensity of their opinion. And so in this case, on this scale, the level of measurement would be ordinal. Okay? So that would be an ordinal level of measurement. And then this question on TV hours, if I go down here, notice there's no real codes, and so people were just asked, how many hours of TV do you watch on any given day? And so this variable could be considered either interval or ratio or numeric, right? There's no code, right? The first person reported 8 hours, the second person reported 1 hour. All right? And so the level of measurement here would be interval or ratio. That distinction is not that important as we move forward. Whether it was interval or ratio, all we need to know is that it was numeric. Okay, and so what I'd like you to do is just review the first subset of the General Social Survey. Then you need to simply go and pick out and select some variables that are of interest. Then go to the next one, the subset B, bring that in, and review that database. You don't have to do the edit options command because it's already been set for this session. Go to Utilities, Variables, and review this database, right? Views on capital punishment, favor or oppose, questions with regard to how close does one feel to Black Americans, and so on. And then select as a question randomly father's socioeconomic index. Oh, I wouldn't bother with that question. That's kind of a complicated one. But people's views on, think of themselves as either liberal or moderate or conservative. Okay, all those questions are in this database. And then, use the Utilities Variables command to get a sense of the data. Then go to the next database, File, Open, Data, the hints data, open that. Well, it looks a little bit different than the GSS because it's a different database. No big deal. You treat it the same way. I'm going to go ahead and review it through the Utilities Variables command. And you can go through it. I wonder if I can make this bigger so you can see the actual mnemonic. Okay, and the mnemonics here are a little funnier. And this one you could go through this one. In general, I depend on numbers and statistics to help me make decisions about my health. Would you say you strongly agree or somewhat agree or disagree or strongly disagree with that statement? And so if you're a nursing major or a social work major and you're interested in issues with regard to how people are thinking about the healthcare system, review this database. There's lots of great survey questions here, and make a note of them, okay? And then I'll go ahead and close out. And then the last database, File, Open, Data. We'll go to the Monitoring the Futures data. File, Open. And we can use the Utilities Variables command to get a sense of the questions, and everything's listed here alphabetically. Question on drink, attitudes toward trying alcohol, don't disapprove or strongly disapprove. Interesting set of items there, okay, in terms of measurement scale. At friends, attitudes towards friends having towards having friends of another race. Oh, that's an interesting one. Not acceptable, somewhat acceptable, acceptable, desirable. Attitudes on heroin, and so on. And then make a list of some neat questions that might be of interest to you as you move forward in SOS 232 based on that database. Okay. Okay. And in terms of the first demonstration exercise, what I'm asking all of you to do is go through each of the databases and select several variables that are just of interest to you in terms of your first exploration of the databases. Okay? I just want to make sure that you have a sense of just all the different variables that are available as we move forward during our semester together. In Module 2, you'll maybe start to select which database you want to work in, and you'll be starting to select your series of variables that you want to analyze. But what I want you to do now is just explore all databases and list them accordingly. Okay? And that marks the end of another SPSS demonstration exercise. And remember, this is the first of a two-part series, and you'll want to check out the instructional video on how to review and use the code books. Okay?